Before we officially resume, let me take the advantage to tell you a story Eja Konimo told us. Eja Konimo traveled for further studies. It was London. He said when he got to London, it was winter and the temperature was very low. He says that it was so low that even the elephant in the zoo could not move. If you wanted the elephant to move, you had to give the elephant whiskey before the elephant could move. And he said he did not know anybody in London, but it was at this time he put up with a friend. And the friend said he could no longer put up with him, so he should go and find his own apartment. And that was when he wrote the song, Overseas Life, Abruchra Brabo. So listen to Overseas Life, Eja Konimo, Abruchri Abrabo. Abruchra Brabo, Abruchra Brabo, Abruchra Brabo, Abruchra Brabo, Overseas life, high life. Abrocha bravo yenianume. Abrocha bravo ye. Abrocha bravo yo. Abrocha bravo ya. Binging deni. Kiriba, sing kiriba. Eno menini kwatima. Ubani mome na metu bata cheni no. Binje na mpoeja. Amesume. Oba ko akono bravo yenianume. Abrocha bravo ye. Abrocha bravo yo. Abrocha bravo ya binyendeni. Sereba, sengereba, yenkonige. Abrocha bravo yenianume. Abrocha bravo ye. Abrocha bravo yo. Abrocha bravo ya binyendeni. And this is how A.P. Krenzel puts it. Papa Shamoko Ukromo na wobeko Samwe Ukromo na wobeko Papa Shamoko Ukromo Papa Shamoko Ukromo na wobeko Kwapa Abrocha bravo ye, abrocha bravo yo, abrocha bravo ya minyedeni.
Let's hear it for Kwampa. Thank you very much. If you are seated at the back and you find an empty seat in front of you which doesn't have a bag on it, you have my permission to take that seat. So those of you at the very rear of the room, please move forward so we're a little more compact. The closer we are, the warmer the room will be. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. And I hope that your break was a refreshing one. As we continue our journey through the National ICT Week, I would like for us now to turn our focus on an incredibly important topic. Now, this is a topic on connecting persons with disability to ICT opportunities for all. The presentation will explore how we can bridge the digital divide and, more importantly, ensure that everyone, regardless of their ability, has access to the transformative power of technology. So with a round of applause, let's welcome our next speaker, who is, in fact, just before that, let me do some quick acknowledgements. I think our sponsors have done us some good and they deserve commendation. A big thank you to Smart Infraco and eSolutions, GDS Africa, Innovari, Tech Connect, Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, and of course Asasi Broadcasting. And would like to say a big thank you to Nana Kwejo Obobi, who's the Sanahene of Achim Sokode Draso, for joining us. And he's here with the chief of Achim Sokode Draso, Berima Kwabna Ewa the First. He's the Berima of Kokurantumi. Round of applause and welcome, Nana. Our next speaker is the Chief Executive of the National Council on Persons with Disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Esther Ekwa Jemfi Esquire.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm standing on existing protocol. So my predecessor stood here, so I'll also stand here. This afternoon, we are going to look at Connecting Persons with Disabilities, ICT Opportunities for All. Now, the big question is, who is a person with disability? Before we look at the opportunities, who is a person with disability? The Persons with Disability Act, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, tells us who a person with disability is. And a person with disability, according to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, says any person who has an impairment. It can be physical, it can be intellectual, it can be sensory impairments. And then in interaction with physical, cultural, social barriers, that person's participation in society is limited, is a person with disability. So if you are too tall and the height of your doorway will not allow you to enter and you need to bend, then you have joined the group. Next. Now, Ghana as a nation, since 2006, after the adoption of the 1992 Constitution, recognized the rights of a group of people whose rights, whose existence, whose participation was being delegated to the background. So we had the Persons with Disability Act 2006, Act 715, which established the National Council on Persons with Disability to coordinate disability inclusive activities, collaborate with other agencies to ensure that issues of persons with disabilities are mainstreamed into national development, and tasked the National Council on Persons with Disability to maintain a register on persons with disability. In other words, maintain a disaggregated data on persons with disability. So if you say you are a person with disability, then the data should tell us your category of disability, where you live, your name, your level of literacy, parents, caregivers, which district and region you live here in Ghana. So per the disaggregated database of the National Council on Persons with Disabilities, we have identified 26 categories of persons with disabilities. We have persons with physical disabilities. We have the deaf. We have persons who are nonverbal. That is, they can hear, but they are nonverbal. Persons with communication disabilities, including speech and language disabilities. If it takes the person a long time to say a word, or the person has the word in mind but cannot say it. Previously, they said they are not smart, but it's not because they are not smart, but they have communication disabilities. We have persons who are hard of hearing. There are others you need to scream before they can hear you. And so when they are talking, they also speak out very, very loud, thinking that they need to scream so that you can hear them. Then we have persons with visual disabilities. So within this group, we have the blind and those who have lost sight in one eye, those who, because of the color of the room, may not be able to see, but when they go to another room, because of the color, may be able to see. Then we have persons with multiple disabilities, such as the deaf-blind. Then persons with psychosocial disabilities. Those within the psychosocial disabilities, we have over 38 of them. Then we have persons with cerebral palsy. Next. We have the bipolar, those with bipolar conditions, attention deficit. You can go on and on and on. And getting to the latter part, persons with leprosy, those with hunchback, little persons, burn survivors, they all constitute persons with disabilities. Because of their impairments, the environment limits them, or cultural beliefs and practices limits them, or social interventions and social provisions limit them, their participation. That makes them persons with disabilities. Next. The big question is, where do persons with disabilities fall? Ghana had the ICT policy 2003, then 2018, and now we have the Ghana Digital Economy Policy 2024. We will say that it is an improvement over the previous policies, but then there's room for improvement. Why are we saying that? At least the policy talks about inclusive ICT infrastructure to ensure that whatever infrastructure is being developed, at least issues of persons with disabilities are considered. And then the policy mentions at few spots persons with disabilities in the digitalization agenda for Ghana. Next. The question is it inclusive enough? We'll say yes, it's an improvement over the previous policies, but there's room for improvement. The reason we are saying, even though it mentions inclusion and has provisions for persons with disabilities, we are saying there's room for improvement. The reason is that ICT forms part of the accessibility provisions for persons with disabilities. A blind person will be able to read from the computer or the laptop with the software of a screen reader. Without it, they cannot read. But with it, they can read. Others have software in their lens that enables them to get to a supermarket and they are able to shop, pick the items, because their lenses will tell them, this is orange. It sells for 2 cedis, or 5 for 10 cedis, and then they are able to shop. So they are able to do their daily activities through ICT. Next. The advantages of an inclusive ICT, or how ICT promotes the lives of persons with disabilities, and the advantages are that when we look at an inclusive ICT policy, it always ensures that issues of persons with disabilities are considered and mainstreamed in the development and implementation of every ICT initiative. We will say that this very ICT policy seeks to promote accessible technologies such as screen readers and braille displays, which enables persons with disabilities to access information and communication effectively. It also ensures access to ICT, which provides persons with disabilities in Ghana equal access to education and an enabling environment to acquire skills and knowledge. The ICT policy will ensure that persons with disabilities get employment, both in the ICT sector and also promote employment in other sectors. It will enable persons with disabilities to access health care, and also they are able to participate in governance and decision-making processes. These are a few advantages that we will share. Next. Why should persons with disabilities be included in the development of ICT? And we just want to look at 3. Persons with disabilities constitute a substantial percentage of Ghana's population. So 10% of Ghana's population are persons with disabilities. Leaving them behind means leaving 10% of the population behind. Without inclusion, sustainable development goals cannot be achieved, especially Goal 11, Smart City, which also forms the basis for accessibility provisions for persons with disabilities. The question is, what is the agency, National Council on Persons with Disability, doing to ensure that ICT benefits persons with disabilities? Currently, kindly go, thank you. Currently, the agency is implementing the Disability Inclusion Acceleration Project, the component of Skills for Jobs and Inclusion of the Ghana Digital Acceleration Projects. And under these projects, 8,000 persons with disabilities will benefit from training, different levels of trainings. And the objective is that the training should be able to help them to live independently. So for independent living. And then become entrepreneurs themselves. They will be resourced with IT devices, that is accessible IT devices, so that they can set themselves up in business. And also, they will be able to engage with government portals. Currently, that's the project we are implementing. And we collaborate with other agencies. Disability is cross-cutting. One agency cannot do it. We collaborate with other agencies to implement these activities. As I bring my presentation to a close, I want to share a scenario with you. 2 babies were born in 2 different parts of the world. The 2 babies happened to be male. And one was in Europe, the other one found himself in a village in Ghana. However, the one who found himself in Ghana, Kofi, did not just end up in the village. He had wonderful parents, an engineer and a banker, but then he was born blind. The other, who found himself in Europe, had parents. One was a nurse, the other was a teacher. The parents in Ghana were so confused that the next idea that came to mind is, let's just send Kofi to the village to live with her grandma so that we can be sending them money and be working, because we just don't know what to do with Kofi. We will have more children and we will take care of them. And they had more children and took care of them. The other parents in Europe resorted to interventions, ICT, and 22 years down the line, the gentleman is a lecturer, a blind lecturer. However, Kofi remains in the village, dependent on the old grandmother. ICT can do a lot for persons with disabilities. Join in the chorus. Inclusive ICT for persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther Ekua Jemfi, Chief Executive of the National Council on Persons with Disabilities. And that presentation, I think for me, a very rich presentation, but that story at the end, very profound. ICT indeed is a leverage and a catalyst, if we can all embrace it. Thank you once again. Another round of applause, please. Our next presentation will be on how Ghana.gov can serve as a tool for digital inclusion. Indeed, if we want to go far, then we have to go as a multitude. And so Ghana.gov is a tool that will help us all make sure we're contributing and participating in a digital Ghana. With a round of applause, let's welcome our speaker, Kwesi Affle.
Thank you very much. Before I go into the presentation, I would like to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And then I will stand on the existing protocol to deliver my message. All right, so before I go into what I'm about to present, I would like to share a few things with you. Digital inclusion, big word, but let's try to break it down. Before Ghana.gov, or before government intervention into making sure that everybody participates in digital services, it was left at the behest of telcos and then fintechs to try to do something to include everybody. The end result for them is about profit. So you get some of them engaging external institutions to develop solutions to target the population. So if you find yourself in, let's say, some of the trade corridors whereby our traditional susu is quite prevalent, you will see a conversion from the traditional one to a digital approach. It's all geared towards bringing our market women or traders into that space. But that end result ends with that telco or ends with that fintech. What is the impact to government? If anybody knows, probably you can educate me. From where I sit, it's 0. So what it does is that a lot of people are using a particular service, but that service is not really entrenched into the average Ghanaian on the street, to a larger extent coming onto the national kitty. So the idea of bringing everybody into a particular framework to ensure that institutions that is government-oriented and then the populace are able to access government services, birthed the solution Ghana.gov. Now, I'll look at it in 2 buckets. The first bucket is the government institutions, where you and I go to access services. In the past, you go there with your bag with cash, and you go. I want this. Okay. No form of reference. It's 100 Ghana cedis. Oh, can you tesokakra, no, so that then, so then you have somebody corner you at the back end and say, for 50 bra, me sort out. What it does is that it doesn't create any level of equity. It doesn't create any level of transparency. At the end of the day, you don't even get a service. And then you see a whole lot of complaints. Then the end result is government official be announced a civil servant is corrupt. But who corrupted that person? It's you. Because you want a shortcut to what? Your service. So the idea of Ghana.gov is to make sure that all these barriers are taken care of. Issues around transparency, issues around accountability, and then issues around making sure that government recognizes the revenue that is expected of us. So today, if you sit in a village in and around somewhere at Cape 3 Point, if my memory serves me right, it's called Akinchin or so. If you sit in that village, up north to Zabzugu, you should be able to access government services without the hassle and bustle that used to exist in the past. So apart from accountability, what does Ghana.gov do or does to us? There's an issue around discovery, okay? And what is discovery? You have a lot of government services that do not necessarily generate revenue. They're just there to support the populace, or they are there as auxiliary service provided to other agencies. If you are somebody who is oblivious of their activity, all that you can do is that go onto Ghana.gov and check them out. It doesn't necessarily mean that you want a service, but rather you want to be educated. So that information is sitting down there. So for Ghana.gov, it is about discovery and what? Education. How do you do that? Today we have 2 channels for that approach. We have the website, whereby you can log on, and then you see all this information about government services, irrespective of whatever service you want, irrespective of whatever agency you want to engage, that solution is there. The other form is those of us who are using smartphones. There's an app version which we call the Citizens app. You can also download it, and in there you will see all the government services that you can have access to, and then even proceed to make payment. So after all this implementation, the other angle that came up is that some of these government agencies, for us to get them to be part of that inclusive drive, is to get them to have systems, right? Because if these guys don't have systems, how do they come as being part of that inclusiveness that we are seeking to drive? So then we need to look outside the box or think within and then find solutions for them. So on Ghana.gov, our mandate is not essentially building services for Ghana.gov, for government agencies, no. Our mandate is to look at their existing processes and then get them to be effective and efficient in their revenue mobilization. So that is the first angle. The second angle then is, okay, how do we get the citizens to be able to assess and then make payment? There are various channels that you can use. Today, if you visit all the banks, the 23 plus commercial banks, including Apex banks, which is the rural banks, and you want to access government service, you've gone for it, you have your invoice and you want to make payment, you can make payment in all these banks, irrespective of where you are saving. With the aid of your mobile money, you should be able to what? Pay. If you have a bank card, you should be able to pay. So all the areas of payment is captured on this single platform for you to pay. So the excuse of I'm waiting for my grandmother to send, it is not there. You should be able to make that payment. So in essence, this is what Ghana.gov seeks to what? Solve with respect to what we've been able to do so far. Now, I want us to go into what has been the benefit to the state, which is the owner of this particular product. Slide 1, please. So, I want us to look at this. 56 billion from January to June. So I'm showing you the mid-year report. 56. If you compare that to what we did last year, that is around 25.6%. Where do you think these things will be if we are using the old approach? Somewhere else, you and I, and then we'll be complaining, right? Now, if you look at the numbers, so clearly what it tells you is that this approach is able to bring all or everybody within this ecosystem with respect to payment and access to government services. If you go down there, you will see our top 11 agencies. Ghana Revenue Authority, Electricity, Ghana Health Service, Environmental Protection Agency, all these ones. I know all of us in this room have experiences, before Ghana.gov, we had experiences with these agencies. You go there and a service that costs, let's say, 100 Ghana cedis. Somebody is telling you it is what, 500. Somebody is telling you it's 1,000. So this solution brings certain level or high level of what? Efficiency and then transparency. So no issues around surcharging. Now what it means is that if you go to a government agency and the service is costing 100 cedis and you decide to pay 200, you don't go back and go and complain because you made that decision, right? Yeah. Next slide. So in summary, what we've been able to do with the agencies, we've been able to onboard over 1,000 government agencies. Over 1,000 government agencies. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, you don't have all the agencies who are processing payment. Some are for what? Information purposes. But they are there. Because you want a situation whereby when somebody wants to access a government service, he or she should be able to have one-stop shop to be able to have that information. So this is what is happening. We have agencies that are not digitally accessible, or they don't have the necessary infrastructure. And from our last conversation with NITA, those conversations are ongoing to get them together. But even with that, we've been able to provide them USSD solutions, whereby we've created short codes for them. If you want to access their service and then make payment to that effect, you could use those short codes to make those payments. And those government agencies will receive their monies, and then the service will be rendered. And we have a way of getting them to check how much they've received with respect to what payment has gone in their favor. So this is where we are. Next slide. The progress so far. If you look at from where we started off from 2020 to date, clearly shows you day in and day out as we increase the number of agencies, as we increase the number of services that are digitally being paid for. What it means is that Mother Ghana is then making the right revenue in that regard. So everybody is captured here. So you don't have any business to use any other conduit to say that I want to use this conduit to receive my government service or pay for my government services. This is where it is supposed to be. It is for you and I, our benefit, to make sure that government recognizes the actual revenue that we need. Next. Next, please. Good. So, I want us to look at this year alone, where we are. The ones that you see a drop in transaction count, so June you saw a drop, no need for you to panic. Look at the values. You see the values are going up. So what it tells you is that the possibility of probably somebody who generally is within that space, for one reason or the other, lost out. But in terms of the in terms of the actual values that we are recognizing for government services, is always going up. Because day in and day out, people coming on board to say, oh, this is how I want this service to be captured. This is how I want these services to be captured. Next. Yes. So these are the quarterly numbers. That gives us an overview as to how the business has performed over the period. So for me, and then for people that I work with, the idea is that let's ensure that all government agencies who are not inclusive in terms of finance are captured. And that takes time. It takes time. It is process. So you go into an agency and let's say you want to pay with mobile money and you have some difficulties. It is not because they are not ready, but in terms of accountability, they want to make sure that whatever they are receiving in the name of the institution, in the name of the state, is properly captured so that our Chinebino, civil servant, nobody will go and say, hey, it is chop money. So those are some of the challenges that we are seeking to take care of. The next one. Okay, so in essence, this is what the impact has been to the state. Now, for me, and then for any other person, it is important that all of us, wherever we find ourselves, we need to ensure that the services that you are going for, the institutions that you are engaging on a day-to-day basis, if you need a service, tell a friend, let the people understand that it is Ghana.gov, that is where these services are available, and then the information that you need should be provided for you. So this solution, it is not discriminatory. Everybody can have access to it, irrespective of your digital education level. If you have a YAM phone or a feature phone, you should be able to make your government payment. If you have a smartphone, you should be able to do that. So that is where we are as a business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chrisia, for that insightful presentation. I like the numbers, and I saw that in 2023, you were hovering just under 93 million, year to June at 56. So if we do a simple times 2, it would have been an improvement. A round of applause. So our next presentation seems to be the final one for the day. And then you'll all have to be nice to me before I can allow you to go and have lunch. Otherwise, I'll find a way to keep you here. Between DG and I, will find topics we didn't announce. Kwampatu will help us nicely, and it will leave here at 7 p.m. But without wasting any more of your time, I always like to talk about this bit of scripture. And I think you'll find it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It says, and God said, let us make man in our image. So there's a reason that we are spirit, soul, and body, because we represent God, who himself is spirit. And then manifested in the spirit and then in flesh amongst us. But it speaks to partnership. Even the Most High, in creating man, leaned on partnerships. And our next topic is critical because government is really not a construct outside of society. You and I make government. It's just labeling and function that makes government different from private sector. And so our next presentation will explore the public-private partnership approach to digitalization and digital inclusion. Let's welcome Michael Kwabla, Chief Technology Officer at Ascend Digital.
Good afternoon. All protocols observed. Okay, so let's go to the first slide. So the next slide. So Ascend Digital Solutions is a trusted partner to public institutions across Africa. We work in different countries, Nigeria, we are in Cote d'Ivoire, we are in Mali, and this is what we do. So we are also in Ghana here working with public institutions like GIFEC, like NITA. We'll go through it. We do this by having relationship or partnership arrangement with world-class telcos like Tech Mahindra. We work with Jio in India. We have Nokia. We have Radisys from South Africa. These organizations, they have center of excellences that we leverage on, all right? So most of the machines that we deliver today, we work with all these international organizations to deliver them. We also have, when it comes to Ghana, we have decades, a lot of experience in working in a telecom environment. We have skilled telecom resource. We also have track record of building digital infrastructure. We'll go through some of them as I go along. Okay, the next slide. So these are some of the things that we do. We deliver fixed network services. We deliver wireless network. Actually, we also have both. We deliver fixed wireless access. All right. We also have digital platforms. We deliver and manage data centers. We also have cloud services that we manage, cybersecurity. And we do all this in collaboration with the government institutions to ensure that infrastructure that are delivered are providing the necessary services and the digital solutions. Let's go to the next slide. So I'll take one of them. For example, GIFEC. So today we are working with GIFEC in the rural telephony project. All of us sitting in this room, I'm sure we are Kumasi, Accra, in the cities, main towns. The telcos are business entities that will invest in areas where they will get their returns. So if they're going to put a tower at the cost of $80,000, $100,000, they will make sure that they get their returns. Today, they are covering just about 83% of the population. Okay, so if you look at other communities across Ghana, this is what we're trying to do. So we see population, communities that are having 2,000 population. The plan is to cover about 86% of it. Then we move to 90%. We focus on communities that are about 1,000 to 2,000 inhabitants. Then we go to communities that are 500 to 1,000 inhabitants. This project is supposed to cover 3.4 million Ghanaians who today do not have access to telecom services. They don't have access to data. As we speak, we have finished about 1,010 of them. The remaining 1,006 will be completed, it's ongoing, will be completed by November this year. So this is what we are doing to make sure that everybody is brought to the digital economy that we have today. Let's go to the next slide. Ascend has a subsidiary called Smart Infraco. So this subsidiary is working with NITA. All right, let's go to the next slide. There's a partnership arrangement with NITA. And you know NITA today is an agency that is regulating the ICT space. NITA owns a world-class infrastructure. what we are bringing to board with NITA is that how is this infrastructure bringing value to NITA? Okay, we have real human resources that we are supporting NITA to manage this infrastructure. The next one too is we are commercializing the infrastructure, making sure that the value that we need as a people we get from this infrastructure. Let's go to the next slide. So, for example, if we take the data centers, just last month, the Accra data center was certified by Uptime Institution. Uptime Institute is a world-class organization that certifies data centers. We have a tier 3 data center, and I'm sure most of the people sitting here, you don't know, but you can spend some time, visit NITA, have a look at the infrastructure. You'll marvel that we have such infrastructure in Ghana. I think in West Africa, there's no institution that's having that infrastructure. It's using cooling towers. When you stand here, you can see infrastructure. It's a very good infrastructure, and it delivers a lot of services. It has a redundant data center, which is also tier 2 certified by Uptime in Kumasi. So in case services in Accra goes down, you have Kumasi to follow. And this data center has all the, let me call it, cable station, landing stations. May1, Dolphin, Wax, all of them are terminating there. We have the internet exchange also at the data center. You know what happened? In March, when there was this break in communication, when there was a cut in the western coast of Ghana, you saw what happened to our internet service. We all struggled. But all customers that were with NITA had no issue. The reason was that at the NITA data center, there's a connectivity that goes straight to Nigeria on the eastern side. All right? The internet exchange itself had that connectivity through May1. And services were not affected. Everybody had service intact until they restored all the cables. So NITA has infrastructure that is really very good that we should all patronize and use. So look, we have power redundancy at the data center. It has 2 substations serving the data center. So if one substation goes off, another one comes in. They have 2 huge generators, 2 MVA. If you are entering the Ministry of Communication, you see that infrastructure there. They have 2 different transformers. So hardly will services go off at the data center. We never have any issues when it comes to availability of services. And we deliver rack co-locations, virtual private server, web hosting, every services that you need in a data center, you have it. One thing that is also critical is that these services are protected. We have a DDoS infrastructure that prevents denial of services. We have a SOC, Security Operations Center, that is run 24/7. They monitor every service that is running at the data center. So when they see any risk, they see any threats, they are able to detect these threats and avert them. Or they advise the institutions, we've seen this attack, we've seen this, can you change this? We'll help you to change that. And that's what we are doing today with NITA to ensure that services at the data center are running efficiently. And one thing that I'll mention here is that all the services that today NITA is delivering, all clients are having service level agreements signed. When there are issues, within 4 hours, 3 hours, and it's not necessarily having an SLA, but there are penalties. When we go beyond the SLA, there are service credit that we are supposed to pay. So when your service go off and it's taking a long time, we will make sure that we get a team available to resolve the issues. We also have a NOC and a contact center that is run 24/7. So any escalations that our customers or our users or clients are having, they call the contact center. The contact center will escalate the issue to the NOC. Trouble tickets are raised for engineers to resolve them. And these trouble tickets are tracked to make sure that SLAs are met. So this is what we are doing with NITA to ensure that the infrastructure is managed properly. Thank you. Okay, this is one of the infrastructure we have for NITA. is the Eastern Corridor. It runs from Accra through Somenya, Ho, Bandu, Jasikan, Tamale to Boko. Actually, Kulungugu, at the border of Burkina Faso, and deliver services to users who want to deliver services in Burkina Faso. One interesting thing about this infrastructure is that in 2021, this infrastructure had deteriorated. A lot of fiber cuts, construction activities, road construction, destroying the fiber. It is a 48 core. So let me make it simple terms. You have a bus that has 48 seats. People can sit in that bus. In 2020, only 2 of the seats in the bus were working. So we need to work with NITA, make sure that we rectify, we change the whole infrastructure. We rectified it. Today, we have all the 48 seats working. Number 2, the capacity on that infrastructure in 2020 was just 1 gig capacity. So if MTN comes, Telecel comes, they want capacity, you cannot give them more than 1 gig. 2022, it was increased to 10 gig. 2024, by May this year, it has increased to 100 gig capacity. All right? So we see MTN, we see Telecel, we see AT, all of them relying on that infrastructure to deliver services in the north. When there's a cut, you see a lot of issues with their services up north. What we are doing today is that we have managed field partners who are patrolling the lanes. So when they see any threat, they see any risk, they engage us, they will proactively relocate the infrastructure so that it doesn't, even though we are doing that, we see some of the road constructors who are just, destroying infrastructure. So we are working with NITA, Ministry of Communication, Ghana Highways Authority to assist us, and also our own man, the telecom chamber, to make sure that such contractors are really dealt with. Okay, we engage them, and some of the expenses involved are quite high. We have to relocate a whole stretch of ducts, build new chambers, install new cables. That's very expensive, and it's a toll not only on us, all the telcos, MTN, Telecel, all of them go through it. But we are trying our best to make sure that we minimize the impact. Okay. We know NITA also have this LTE, like 4G. We use this to deliver fixed wireless access. So in communities or in areas where the fiber is not there, we use the LTE to deliver the service. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so there's also this company called Digital Infrastructure Ventures. It's a partnership arrangement with AT, all right, Airtel Tigo. Let's go to the next slide. So what we've done is that we have an arrangement with Airtel Tigo. They have a backbone capacity that delivers service across the whole country. Then we also have the Eastern Corridor. Then we have partnership arrangement with other telcos in terms of fiber. So we have built an infrastructure. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, that is serving about 951 state agencies across the whole country. Let's go to the next slide. The project was completed in April this year, 2024. So this is what is delivering. And you can see, we are making use of the 2 data centers that NITA is having, Kumasi and Accra. And this is a huge capacity, 200 gig capacity, going to both Accra and Kumasi. And we are delivering this service to all regional hospitals, district hospitals, GIFMAs, metro, municipal assemblies, post offices, police stations. And you can see the capacity that we are delivering. One interesting thing about this solution is that it is, we call it software defined. It means it's able to manage how to route the traffic, okay, on it. The other thing is that it provides wide area networking. So for police or any other institutions, if they want to manage the data that they want to use among themselves, this solution allows us to make sure that we give that bandwidth or that capacity to only the police. Okay, so it's a huge infrastructure. Let's go to the next slide. So you see, across the whole country, you can see what has been built. You see from the eastern side, the eastern corridor, we also built almost 5,000 kilometers of fiber on the western side, and you see the middle rings, and it is ringed. So before this project, the eastern corridor was standing alone. When there's a cut, all services are off. But we have linked the two, all right? And this infrastructure is something that a lot of people don't know it exists. And it is one of the infrastructure that exists. That's why I'm sure we'll go to my subsequent slide. The NCA, the regulator, Ministry of Communication were talking about being able to deliver 5G maybe in September, October, because this infrastructure has been laid, it's been built with a huge capacity among the cities, all right, or the towns in Ghana. So my next slide is on the next gen infraco. Hello? Okay. So we are partner to this. ASEN is a partner to this infrastructure company. All the telcos, MTN, AT, Telecel are also partners. We also have other partners. And this is what we are doing. Next slide. So what we are doing is that, it's a bit clumsy, but I'm sure I'll make it quite simple. So what we are building is that we are building a shared infrastructure where the infrastructure is built. Any telco, any ISP that want to deliver 4G services, for example, MTN or AT in Accra, Accra Metro, if they are experiencing congestion in their network, all what we can do is that, look, you have this available infrastructure with a huge capacity. Just offload your traffic onto that infrastructure so that your user experience, customers will have a very good internet service. The next thing is, if there are areas where you need coverage, we provide infrastructure. You can let your users get coverage using this infrastructure. What it's doing is that it minimizes the capital investments that the MNOs or the telcos need to invest in. The same situation with 5G. If there are areas where there's 5G infrastructure, all what this infrastructure does is that it will enable the telcos customers also have 5G. So it's an arrangement that we are doing with all of them, and it's pretty good infrastructure solution for all of us. And I'm sure in the next couple of months, we will all see what has been done. And this is capable, we are capable of doing this because of the previous slide that I shared. The baseline infrastructure has been laid across the whole country with huge capacity that can take up the traffic that's coming. All right, let's go to the next slide. So in conclusion, it's through our collective efforts that we can achieve our shared of a digital inclusive in Ghana together by embracing, all right, public-private partnership approach. We are not just building infrastructure. It's not just the infrastructure that is there. But what we are doing, that we are creating a future where every Ghanaian, everybody, all of us can thrive in a digital age. Thank you very much.
I'm not particularly impressed that only 7.5 people applauded at the end. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you very much, Michael, for the presentation. Very, very, very audacious. But if you want to leapfrog, then you can't dream small. So we're definitely on the right track. Couple of announcements. Tomorrow is very hands-on, and it will have 3 tracks of workshops. I think there's an Innovari workshop, then there's something on IoT, STEM tech. Please, if you have any questions, go back to the registration desk or talk to anyone wearing a NITA t-shirt. They'll know. If they don't, let me know so I can go and snitch on them. We're at the end of day one of the National ICT Week, and I think that I would like to tip my hat, even though I'm not wearing one right now, to all of you for your attentiveness and very keen interest in everything we've seen happen here today. I would like for you to not leave the room immediately. We're going to do a group photograph. Who's the chief photo? All right. Would you do it in here or you want to do it on the steps outside? You do it in here. All right. So we're going to do the group photograph right here, after which we'll have lunch and we close. I can't see the Reverend Minister who prayed to start us. And neither am I a Reverend Minister, but at least I can say the Lord's Prayer. So I am going to elect myself to close us with a word of prayer. So please, and if you are here representing a media organization and have not yet registered, please ask to see Jennifer Derry and register with her. It's important because we have a number of contacts who will answer any further questions that you may have, and she has all that information. So please do see her before you leave. Again, on behalf of the Director General and the management at NITA, I would like to thank you all very much for accepting the invitation to join us for the very first day of the National ICT Week. Someday you'll look back and see what this has become and what it has birthed, and you can at least say, Charlie, I was there when it started. So I love beginnings. This is the first of many firsts. Thank you all very much. May we please rise for a short word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the successful start of the first day of the National ICT Week. We ask for your guidance, your protection, and your preservation for all who have attended and will be heading home. We ask for the same grace to bring them back here tomorrow. And may the work of NITA make a telling contribution on this nation's story. We're grateful in Jesus' name. Amen. So we'll do the group photograph here. If you're my height,